There, those guys are trying out a kind of underwater submarine. This is like a drone, but it's not flying, it's like a submarine. Wow, shit. Wow. Let me introduce you to the Chinese dream. This is the Chinese dream. Look, for years we've been told that the best way for us, Latin Americans, to find a better life outside our countries was the American dream. They used to tell us, are you going to work hard here all your life, or you can go to the other side, to the United States? The American dream. When I was starting my channel, the Canadian dream was beginning. Right now we can see what's happening in the United States. Canada is better, not perfect, but better. Not as good as it was before, but better. But they've been putting in some strict requirements, and not everyone can handle the cold, or a society that's so similar to the American one. This is where this place comes in, the Chinese dream. In the last few videos, I've read you a lot of impressive and positive statistics about China. That it's number one in this and that, has the best of these and is a leader in those. In the other one too, yes, you've already gotten that message. China, very quickly and decisively, is positioning itself as number one in the world in everything that benefits an economy. But this time I want to look at something a bit more conceptual, more human, more based on numbers and statistics and based on an idea. Can we put China on par with the American dream? And while for many it's going to be no, for many it's going to be yes, I think it's a good option. Let's see. Look, I'm not telling you that China is paradise or the perfect country, or that it's for everyone, or that here, definitely, 100% you'll find everything you're looking for. I'm also not telling you that here you'll find the happiness you didn't find in Latin America. I'm just presenting the options to you. I'm just suggesting them as an option. You know what you're looking for and what would make you happy. Read the information I'm giving you and you decide, I'm just giving it to you as an option. Are you open to the idea that a better life isn't limited to the United States or Canada? Are there other options? The world is very big. If you go right now and search on Google or any source, how many foreign immigrants are there in China? It will say 1.5 million. But this includes citizens from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. So let's exclude them. So we have a number of about 850,000 people of foreign nationality. Wow. That's quite a lot, you might say. That's a lot. But if you take into account the total population in China, they're only 0.07% of the total inhabitants. That is to say, China can receive millions of people and it would have little or no effect on its demographics, unlike European countries. And in 2023, the residence permits issued to foreigners almost reached the levels of 2019. It's recovering there. It's going to become the largest economy in the world, bigger than the United States, and it also has many opportunities for immigrants. Let's listen to the programs, all the advantages and disadvantages, and let's hear some testimonies from Spanish-speaking brothers who found the dream, the Chinese dream, here in China. Let's go. There are basically two main ways to immigrate to China. Number one, with a scholarship from the Chinese government, where the Chinese government gives you money to study here in China. And number two, coming to work. The most common job is as a teacher, a language teacher. Let's look at these two. Sometimes you come across robots like this out of nowhere and you don't even know what they're for. Well, this is police. There goes the robot police. Look, it's watching. Artificial intelligence robot. Myth. I need to speak advanced Chinese to be able to go to China. That's going to be literally in Chinese. No. And how was your first day in China?
Well, more than I expected, because I arrived at the airport at 5 in the afternoon, and from there I had to take a plane from Beijing to Changchun, which is about 12 hours away by the slowest train. And well, it was an adventure because I didn't have any signal. I didn't know Chinese. I only knew that I had to get to Northwest University. And well, with English I was able to get there.
How did you get to China?
I arrived through the English teacher exchange program. There was one in 2016, and I was working as a teacher in Mexico, and I came to China to work as a teacher as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Gustavo Caris and I'm from Bolivia, from Cochabamba.
And how long have you been in China?
I've been here for more than 7 years now. I did my undergraduate studies, my master's degree, and currently I'm working at a Chinese company in the south of this continent.
It's hard to adapt to life in China. The language is complex and the culture is very different. How did you handle grocery shopping, clothes, and your apartment?
I did it with a roommate from Bolivia. We were roommates. And it started, well, first with a recommendation from the teacher who told us, you can shop at this supermarket, you can find these utensils. Here they made it easy for us, like an introduction here. The teachers, especially when you're learning Chinese, are always very friendly and give you that guidance. It's like being in elementary school.
My name is Daniel Rodriguez.
Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Oaxaca in Mexico, and I'm about 9 years old. In 2026, I'll turn 10, the hardest part, where, like everyone, the language barrier. The Chinese language is a little complicated for us as Latinos. We're not very used to hearing the sounds and especially the tones that exist in the Chinese language.
They lack the energy and vibe we Latinos have. Yes, that's true, but any country you go to abroad is going to be like that. It happened to me when I went to Canada. It happened to all the brothers who are in the United States. Every immigrant experiences this, even in other Spanish-speaking countries. Venezuelans in Colombia face this despite the country's similarity, as do Mexicans abroad. In Latin America, that's always going to happen to you, even if you leave your hometown and move to another part of your own country. For example, if I leave Chiapas for Mexico City, I'm going to feel that nostalgia of missing my hometown. That's something that just comes with immigrating.
The hardest thing overall is the culture. The fact that when I greet someone from afar, I can only wave my hand and say hello. That was kind of shocking because in Latin America, we usually give a hug, show that affection. Here it's a bit more distant out of respect for their culture. Maybe it's about understanding their culture a bit more. What do they accept and what do they, let's say, do? It's a bit different.
The food, because I'm very attached to Mexican food, tacos, the enchiladas, chemitas, tortas, and for me, it was really complicated. The food thing
Is that China is very expensive. How am I going to cover my expenses in China? Look, it's cheaper than Mexico, even their big and more technologically advanced cities. They're cheaper or the same price as Latin America. Definitely much cheaper than Canada and the United States. Look, I just got back from Iceland. There I paid $50 for a can of tuna, an apple, and a banana. How does life in China compare to life in Bolivia for you?
Well, there are a lot of conveniences from transportation, food, studies, access to laboratories, and an international environment, especially in Beijing. Something that's hard to find, I could have gotten in Cochabamba or in Bolivia.
Has your quality of life improved, worsened, or stayed the same?
Has it improved? Because from the day I arrived here in China, I stopped receiving a single cent from my parents. At 18 years old, I was already receiving a scholarship from the Chinese government, which was enough for me to live for a month and the following months. So since that age, I've been someone responsible for my own finances, responsible for my living expenses. So yes, I already feel like a free person. In that sense,
A university in China won't open the same doors for me. It gives me very few opportunities. No, look. It's true that to immigrate, let's say, to Canada or the United States, a university in China doesn't count for you as much. It's different than if the university were in Canada or the United States. When you submit your application for permanent residency, yes, that's true. But Chinese universities do open many doors for you.
I did a postgraduate degree in computer science and my bachelor's degree was in mechatronic engineering. One of the biggest is access to laboratories and the publication of scientific articles Because if we look at the data, Chinese universities have a higher number of scientific article publications. There are different research centers, and nowadays artificial intelligence is one of the research topics. They are working on them from different perspectives, from universities, companies, and the government is giving a lot of support. So that's what made the biggest difference between studying in Bolivia and in China.
In fact, the quality of American universities is not increasing, and unfortunately, in some cases, it's decreasing. And this is not something that makes me happy in any way. Imagine being one of those teachers who, before saying any scientific fact, has to be careful that you don't use the wrong pronouns so you don't offend someone, and that you have to be careful about how you pronounce things so you don't trigger someone's anxiety. That's decadence in the Western education system. Here they don't mess around with that nonsense. Would you go back to your country to live?
To live? I'm not sure, but I would like to contribute with the knowledge and connections I was able to make here.
And do you regret coming to China?
No, I would never regret it. No, I would never regret coming to China. At first it was very complicated. Maybe I didn't want to accept many things, but over time I realized that it's very easy to adapt, and now I'm completely adapted. I think it would be very, very complicated for me to readapt to the Mexican system or to another type of system. For me, China is one of the best countries there is.
What do you think would be hardest for you to readapt to in Mexico?
When it comes to safety, for me, it would be really hard to reset my mind and say that any place is safe. Here, it doesn't matter where I walk or what time it is, it's very safe. And I don't have that stress or that fear of thinking that someone is following me or feeling like I'm in danger. Learning to detect places that are dangerous.
But studying in China is very intense. I've seen all those videos of Chinese people who are like slaves there. They're even falling asleep. They haven't slept in days. They're studying 15 hours a day. Yes, those videos do exist. I've seen them too, but those are about other things. In some production factories, they are not from universities or schools. Those videos are of people taking naps in China, in factories and workplaces. It's common to take naps. The bosses, the owners, the supervisors, of course, have a cabin with a single bed for themselves, but the workers don't. Also, you only have a certain amount of time to take your break or your nap. And these factories are huge. It takes you 20 minutes just to walk to the break area and another 20 minutes to walk back. It's better to just sleep at your desk. It's more convenient. These videos aren't about universities. They're about factories. An additional advantage that I haven't mentioned, if you're one of those who want a traditional woman, who washes for you, cooks for you, irons for you, so when you get home from work, your food is ready and everything is taken care of. And she says, "Here, my love, here are your slippers. You relax. I'll take care of everything else." I mean, if you're one of those who need or prefer a woman like that, look. The Chinese woman who says 50-50 if you want one. I go out with my friends to dance and drink, and don't be insecure, don't act all macho. I'm going to see my ex if you want one of those. There's Canada, the United States, Australia, all of Europe, one of those. And I'm not saying all of them, I'm not saying all of them. But it's more likely that you'll find her in a society like that. But if the mindset you're looking for is that of a traditional girl, one of those who thinks that they have to take care of their husband. I'm not saying all of them, not all, but it's much more likely to happen. Here in China, information that heals. I've said it 100 times since I started making videos in China. I'm gonna say it one more time because it never hurts to repeat it. I don't support communism, but in Latin America, we're really screwed. Our governments are so inept and have given us so much misery. At this point, you have to leave behind that ideology of capitalism or socialism. I don't care about that. And focus on one thing, your dignity as a human being and where you can have a better quality of life. That's it. And definitely in Latin America. Perfect. And to finish, who do you prefer, Chinese women or Oaxacan women?
Yes, that's a very good question. I think that I'll go with the Oaxacan women.
And so you don't call him a traitor in the comments, it says thank you very much. And who do you like more, Latinas or Chinese women?
Good question. Good question. I would say both. Both. It depends on the personality.
No, just one. The boxes from one won't bother you. Don't worry, he says. The Chinese ones. You generally recommend visiting China.
Oh, absolutely. I highly recommend it. A lot. Because it's a place, yes, it's true, very different in terms of language, in terms of the things there are and the people. But really, at the end of the day, you realize that it's very similar in many ways and you adapt easily. People are very friendly. They are very sociable. Honestly, I love China and I truly, genuinely recommend that people move here.
And how's your Chinese going?
I get by. I can have everyday conversations with people in taxis and restaurants. And now I'm strengthening my vocabulary more in mechanical design engineering, which is something very specific for me. Well, yes, I survive here in China.
Okay, let's see a demonstration. How do you say in Chinese, it slipped out? Or I didn't mean to, but I kind of did? Wings and even 5 Chinese women will come after you. Well, here, a disadvantage that many of you are going to think about, and maybe you won't say it, but you will think about it, and maybe. It's tough and a sensitive topic. You might wonder, if I go to China, am I supporting the enemy? China has been the enemy, at least ideologically, of the West. It has implemented a form of government that goes against Western values. And yes, we see the Cold War, in which the United States sabotaged countries that adopted a form of government different from theirs or from what we know, to use them as evidence that anything other than capitalism doesn't work. And yes, it's true, here in China, they have a different form of government. Yes, there is a power struggle between the West and the Asian giants, as well as between capitalism, communism, and socialism. We'll discuss that in another video called Why Does Communism Work in China? Here I'm just going to ask you the following question. Are you happy with the current form of government in your country? Your government, our governments in Latin America chose capitalism, which is basically just neoliberalism. Has it worked for you? Has it worked for the most vulnerable in your country? Has it given equal opportunity to all human beings in your country? Has it made you feel that if you make the effort and work hard, you will get ahead of others? No? What worries you about coming to China?